I checked last year's figures just recently. It's now 36,000. All right. Now, 40,000 international marriages. All right, just to cook your noodle a little bit. How many people think that which is the majority? Japanese men marrying non-Japanese women, or Japanese women marrying non-Japanese men? How many people think it's Japanese men marrying non-Japanese women? That's more common. Nobody? How many people think it's Japanese women marrying non-Japanese men? It's more common. Okay, almost everybody. Guess what? You're wrong. Would you believe it's between 75 and 80% Japanese men marrying non-Japanese women? It's not even close. From other countries as well, Southeast Asia, occasionally Russia. But yes, people bring in brides from overseas because many Japanese women don't want to move to the country and live on a farm. So they import women. So you have a number of older Japanese men marrying younger non-Japanese women that they import. For want of a better word, that's the word. Okay, the point is, if it's mostly Japanese men marrying non-Japanese women, they're here to stay. They're probably going to stay here and have children. Okay? Now, international children, in other words, the children of these international marriages, do not show up in statistics on registered foreigners. Gaikokujin Torokusha. They do not, you don't see them in the numbers because, well, of course you don't. They're not foreigners. They're citizens. So, you don't know how many international children there are in Japan because we have no statistics on them. They're not registered as foreigners. So they're just registered as Japanese. Okay? And also we have something called the Japan Census. We did this in October. International children are also invisible statistically. The Kokusei Chosa does not measure for ethnicity. Alright, for example, if you fill out a census form, every 5 years Japan does the census, a Kokusei Chosa. And you write down your nationality. Okay, a Japanese person writes down Japanese. A non-Japanese person writes down their country of citizenship. What about me? I write down Japanese. But there's no way for me to say I'm a white Japanese. There's no way for me to say that my children are also, they're doubles. They're Japanese and American. There's no way to measure how many Japanese are both. Because that's political. I've called them now, for 10 years now, saying, when are you going to measure for ethnicity, for Minzoku? They said, well, we can't because that would invade privacy. Right? But you're not collecting accurate information. You're saying that Japan is a monocultural, monoethnic society when you don't know. You're not going to collect data that will contradict that. Listen. They said, well, we're still not going to. So the last Kokusei Chosa, last October, still again, no questions about ethnicity. So the point is, we just don't know how deep the genetic diversity of Japanese citizens is because we don't measure it. Neither in the Gaikokujin Torokushasu, because you can't, not in the international, not in the in registered foreigners numbers, or in terms of ethnicity. Okay, with me so far? All right. Some conclusions. Conclusion number one, it is increasingly difficult to distinguish between citizens and non-citizens by physical appearance. Just by gaiken, just by looking at them, can you tell who's Japanese anymore? It's not that easy. Sometimes they look Japanese, sometimes they don't look Japanese. But anyway, how does one look Japanese anyway? Right? The whole concept to me is flawed. So, Japanese-only signs, as I said earlier, will also exclude Japanese citizens. The situation is not tenable for Japan's future. And that's a nice little cartoon from Doshin. That came out of Hokkaido Shimbun, Japan 15th, 2000, just after the Onsens case began to heat up. And we have, do you remember this fashion back then? This young lady right here. Do you remember, anybody remember the ganguro? Some people remember the ganguro. The ganguro were women that would, they were fashion victims. They would make their hair all dark either by tan or by coloration, and they'd make white lipstick and white eyeshadow. They'd wear a quite outlandish, fancy, very flashy dress and have dyed hair. They looked alien. But that was the fashion at the time. You can still see them every now and again when you go to Shibuya. I did 3 days ago. So the point is, if you have her, the Ganguro, standing outside the onsen, depicted by the hiragana for you right there, she's got her Japan passport with her, and it says Nihonjin desu right there. She has to prove that she's a Japanese just to get into the onsen, showing the absurdity of the situation. How stupid it is to assume that someone is Japanese because of how they look. More profound conclusions. Here's some deeper conclusions for you. Japanese